And I can see him turn a couple times this shoulder.
All rise.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Veterans Day breakfast. Would you kindly all uncover, please? Oh Lord, bless those who have served our nation with honor and distinction. Remember, Lord, their valor, courage, and heroism, which inspires us to noble action and to eternal vigilance and preservation of our priceless liberty. In thy mercy, may we, the living, find peace, with strong courage and will, without exertion, to continue to glorify thee. Amen.
Amen.
And there's something to the side.
I'm going to have Bob Casper and guests light the candle for the POWMI table.
Sergeant of Arms, escort Barbara Zib, and my daughter for the lighting of the candle. And while he's bringing them, I'm going to describe to you what's on our table. So the white tablecloth represents the purity of the response to our country's call. The Bible represents our faith in a higher power and a pledge to our country, founded in one nation under God. The single rose reminds us of our families. The red ribbon represents our love for our country. The candle symbolizes our everlasting hope for their return. The slice of lemon reminds us of their bitter fate. I think it's for you every year. The salt represents the tears of their families. The wine glass is turned upside down. It reminds us that our comrade cannot be with us to drink a toast, but to join us this morning. So if you're able, save for them a place inside of you. Save one backward glance when you're leaving. For the places they can no longer go, take one moment to embrace those gentle heroes we left behind. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Tiffany.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, food's prepared and ready to be taken of. So please enjoy. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Attention, please. Ladies and gentlemen, settle down, please. Senator Donahue is asked to say a few words at this time due to scheduling. She won't be able to stay for the rest of the program. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Senator Donahue.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I don't know which one I'm supposed to use. This one that's here? This one here? This one? Okay, who's on first? Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and I want to thank each and every one of you, and thank you to our acting commander for allowing me the opportunity to say a few words. As you know, on Veterans Day, those of us who are in the elected office try and make it to as many communities where our veterans have served just to pay tribute. So that's the dilemma today. But I will always be here at the Lowell event because it is so important. And I want to thank you for inviting me here to be with you as we gather as a community to honor our veterans in their selfless service to our nation. You know, as we know, Veterans Day is a time for contemplation, to give us a moment to say thank you to the brave men and women who answered the call to serve our country. The sacrifices are just immense. What you have done to keep our country safe and our freedom intact. You know, I read a quote. I don't know who wrote it. I don't know where it came from, but it struck me. And it said this. It said, a veteran is someone who, at one point in his or her life, made a promise. They signed a blank check made payable to the United States of America, payable by up to and including giving of their own life. It's incredible when we think about that at any point in our history. But today, it really is humbling to be with you and to see the sacrifices that you made. And without your sacrifice, we would not be the nation, the great nation that we are today. It's our unity that defines us, not separates us. And it's our unity that you fought for and that you've led the way. And I like to think today, especially, that it's the veterans who have led by example throughout our history. You know, we have had a whole lot of political fighting and election seasons and division, and that has happened. But the veterans, when they answered the call, they didn't think in terms of division. They answered the call, they followed the orders, and they kept us safe, and they succeeded. And it's your example that we as a nation must honor and follow. It's your example that must be held up for our youth and the children today, so that they can emulate that selflessness, that leadership, that sacrifice. That's what matters today as we think about our veterans and come together to thank them. We were very fortunate in the legislature to again pass legislation this past session called the HOME Act, and we have all supported that here from the Greater Lowell delegation, and you'll be hearing from some of them shortly, Representative Nangle, Golden, and Mom. And this was signed into law by Governor Baker. And what it does is it assists our veterans in other ways here in Massachusetts. I've always supported that and always will when it comes to our veterans. So I look forward to returning to the legislature in January so that we can continue our efforts to champion the veteran community. I want to take a moment to recognize, and you're all so special, but I want to recognize someone who has a birthday today. A true veteran through and through. Sergeant Campbell, who's down back, maybe. 84 years young. What do you say we try and join and sing happy birthday? And again, saying thank you is never enough for the sacrifice you've given for our nation. We need to thank you every day, but today in particular, thank you. We can never repay the debt that you have, that we owe to you. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for letting me speak.
All you veterans and friends out here not knowing her father was a United States Marine in World War II. Let's give her a
You know, my father, I think of him, of course, every day of my life, but he served in World War II at the U.S. Marine Corps at Iwo Jima. And it was something that, growing up one of 8 kids, he instilled in us that we always honor our veterans, we always honor our country first, you know. And so that's why I say your leadership and your example is second to none. And in this period of turmoil where people feel unsettled about elections, you people know what really matters and where our importance here is as a country, as a nation, not just here at home, but across the world. You've led us through so many conflicts, and you will serve as the bright beacon and star again. So thank you very much.
Attention everybody, we're going to start our program. If you could please turn off your cell phones or put them on silent, please. At first, I would like to ask for a 2-minute moment of silence. The first minute is in memory of all veterans, the fallen from all wars and conflict. And the second minute is for their families and the sacrifice of their families. I'd also like to make a special recognition of Walter Bayless of Lowell, a great veterans advocate who just recently passed.
Can you do me a favor, Susan? I'm in the back. Just review this. Okay. 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 Thank you so much.
Thank you. Please cover. At this time, Sergeant Arms, will you please bring Michael Lally to the podium for the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Sergeant Arms, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Everybody face the flag, stand up, and salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody please be seated. First, I'd like to thank our host, VFW Post 662, for having us today and catering our breakfast this morning. I'd like to give all the ladies in the back that served our breakfast a round of applause, please. This time, I'd like to introduce, if here, please stand, the new councils and appointees from the Greater Lowell Veterans Council, people that are under my command. Myself, Acting Commander Matt Elkins, William Zunes, our chaplain, Ron Roy, our Sergeant at Arms, Joe Zangri, our Judge Advocate, Robert Casper, our Quartermaster, unfortunately just had to leave. Dave LaFera, our Trustee. Jerry Dunn, Trustee. Joe Monanza, Trustee. We also have our Register of Deeds, Richard Howe, which is our historian. And Kerry Hall, in Lowell Auditorium Trustee. Our member organizations and attendees are as follows. The American Legion, Post 212. The American Legion, Post 247. American Legion, Post 313. The American Legion, Post 315. The Armenian American Veterans. The Disabled American Veterans, number 25. Disabled American Veterans, 47. Franco-American War Veterans. The Greek American Veterans. Jewish War Veterans, Korean War Veterans, Lowell Auditorium Trustee Board, the Polish American Veterans, the Marine Corps League, Merrimack Valley Vietnam Veterans, the Portuguese American Veterans, VFW Post 662, and VFW Post 9307. Representing state government, I'd like to recognize Representative Nagel. In the city of Lowell, we have the Lowell Fire Chief, Jeff Winward. We have Mayor Edward Kennedy. Councilor Jim Milanazzo. Councilor Corey Belanger. Councilor Rita Mercier. Yes, Rita, you're so welcome. And Councilor William Samaras. I just got a note stating that Rowdy Mama's in attendance. Oh, and I've just been told that Councilor John Leahy has arrived as well. Also, there was last note, the Don Pulaski Club is also here as well. From the Patton Memorial Society, we have John Grandowski and Walter Early. Also, I would like to thank our buglers for today. VFW Post 662 in the American Legion 315, and also the firing team VFW Post 662 in the American Legion. Our singers for today, as we had Mr. Michael Lally, the office manager for Lowell Cemetery. And later in our program, Eric Lamash, the Lowell Veteran Service Officer. And please, no applause at all for the next organizations. POW MIA National League of Families, Barbara Zips. Gold Star Wives and Families, and Evangeline, correct, sorry if there's a mispronunciation here, Rochi, Army Funeral, Najla Purcell, the president of the Merrimack Valley Gold Star, and I was told that Barbara Howie, which is a Gold Star White volunteer, is also here in attendance. And I'd like to thank everyone for their attendance here today. At this time, I'd like to invite Representative Nagel to the podium.
Thank you, Matt. Good morning, everybody. Before we begin, a couple of words. State Representative Tom Golden was here with his daughter Lily. I know a lot of you saw him and spoke with him before he left. He had to go out to Chelmsford to speak for 11:15 at the Veterans Park organization today, as well as my colleague, Representative Roddy Mumm, is here with us here today. There's a special gentleman out in the audience that I met about 25 years ago, and I know earlier today they sang happy birthday to him, and I would just like to publicly recognize my friend and wish him a very happy 84th birthday, Bob Campbell. Thank you, Bob, and thanks for your service. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Barbara Golden, who is sitting down here to the left. She's probably cleaning dishes by now. And Jimmy is in there, she is in the kitchen. And her and her husband Jimmy do a fantastic job here. And I know that Jimmy is carrying on the legacy of his father, Peter, running this great VFW post. Thank you, Barbara, and thank you, Jimmy, very much. I was thinking recently about what I wanted to talk about here today and pick the subject and put some words together, and this is how I felt about this particular war. There's no specific date and time more sacred to our country than the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, because that's when we as a nation stop to remember and say thank you. Thank you to those who served to win and preserve our freedom. Throughout the history of our country, veterans have been respected and revered by their fellow citizens for what they gave and what they lost. From the Revolutionary War to today's war against terrorism, and every mission, every battle, and every war in between, Americans have stood grateful for the service and sacrifice of our veterans, except once. One time when many in our nation, at best, chose to forget, and some at worst, chose to vilify the treatment of our Vietnam veterans. When they came home, it is one of the darkest marks in the history of our country. It is when a country, certainly not all, but certainly a critical mass of mass citizens, forgot the very price of the freedom that they enjoyed and who had paid for it. The average age of the Vietnam soldier was 22 years. Over 2.5 million Americans served in that war. The average soldier saw 240 days of combat per year. They fought in as hard and harsh conditions as the veterans before them. And like them, they endured and answered our country's call. Just like the veterans before them, their sacrifice was great. 58,169 were killed in action. Another 304,000 were wounded in action. Their courage under fire, spirit in adversity, and sense of duty met the high standards set by those before them. Just listen to the words of Specialist 4, James K. Stoddard, as he lay wounded and bleeding out on Hill 614 in Vietnam. His final words to his sergeant were, "No sweat, sir, you can count on me, we'll stop them." But unlike the veterans before them, they did not return as heroes to parades or public celebrations. They returned, in many cases, to public silence, and unfortunately, in some cases, jeering, insults, and worse. They didn't declare the war. They didn't set the policies in the war. They just fought and died, served and sacrificed. Yet, they undeservingly became the targets of the apathy and anger that an unpopular war brought forth. Who would have blamed them if they had given up on America? America gave up on them. But they didn't. Remarkably, 85% of the Vietnam veterans made successful transitions back to civilian life. 91% said they were happy they had served. And 74% said, knowing the outcome of what they went through, they would still serve again. And today, as we thank and remember all of our veterans, we say specifically to our Vietnam veterans, you will never be forgotten and you will always, always be appreciated. Thank you all for your service. God bless America. Thank you.
This time, I ask the Sergeant at Arms to bring the Mayor of the City of Lowell.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here this morning to join with you in remembering the veterans of all wars over the years. And on behalf of the city and the city council, let me just wish you all a good weekend. I don't have any prepared remarks. Anybody who looked at the program may have seen that I'm not on the program. So, because I have no prepared remarks, that means I'll be brief. But I would like to take a moment to introduce a longtime friend of mine who's here today, and that is former state representative and a Vietnam War veteran, Jay Gaffney. And I'd also like to ask you to join with me in congratulating State Representative Ratty Mom, who just went through a tough campaign and emerged victorious, and I think that's a benefit to the city of Lowell. I'm not a veteran myself. Veterans Day, my father was a veteran. My father was a technical sergeant in World War II who fought in Europe. And so for me, this day reminds me of him, and I spend a lot of time often on this day and on Memorial Day thinking about him and what that must have been like for him. And also, as I was driving over here this morning, I was reminded that there's a lot of discussion about improving veteran services in the country. I think that there's a majority of Americans that think that we can do more to improve veteran services and just make them a lot better. And for those of us who might be looking for silver linings in the recent election results, I would remind everybody that the President-elect Trump promised to improve veteran services, and let's all pray that he follows through on that promise, and let's all hope that we as Americans hold him to it. And with that, I just want to wish everybody else a good weekend, and thank you very much.
I'd ask the Sergeant at Arms to bring the Drake VSO Lynette Gabriella to the podium.
I'm not quite that tall. It's an honor and a privilege to be here today on Veterans Day to celebrate the lives of the servicemen and women. For me, it's Veterans Day every day, as I have chosen for my career one to assist my fellow brothers and sisters in any way possible. This group of my comrades is very near and dear to my heart. Many of us have sadly seen the needs of our courageous veterans go untended, whether by way of poor organization, lack of funding, or red tape. Let us pray that in this coming time, that we as a country, a government, and as a people, will do all that we can to help to ensure the proper treatment that our veterans so clearly deserve. Let us, from the top to the bottom, realize the sacrifices of our men and women have made, and to make care that they receive very personal. Not something beyond our control or concern, but something tied and bound to us that we, as Americans, have a duty to ensure. In closing, I would like to end with a quote from John F. Kennedy. As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. Thank you, and God bless.
Armistice Day, known as Veterans Day here, is observed on 11 November. This honors the armistice signed between the Allies and Germany and France. This marked the ending of the fighting on the Western Front of World War II. It was also known as the Great War and the War to End All Wars. It took effect on 11/11/11. This was 11 o'clock in the morning, the 11th hour of the 11th day, the 11th month in 1918. This was declared a national holiday by many of the Allied nations and coincides with Remembrance Day and Veterans Day. Approximately 20 million people died during World War I in just the 4 years from 28 July 1914 to 11 November 1918. The first Armistice Day was held at Buckingham Palace. King George V held a banquet in honor of the President of the French Republic. This was during the evening of 10 November. The first official Armistice Day was then held on the grounds of Buckingham Palace the next morning on 11 November 1919. The recognition of this day in the United States is slightly different than in other countries. Others remember only the fallen, but here we remember and honor all veterans, both fallen and living. In November 1919, President Wilson stated, and I quote, "To us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with the solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service, with the gratitude of victory, both because of the thing from which it has freed us, and because the opportunity it has given America to show her sympathy with peace and justice in the councils of nations. On 8 October 1938, President Eisenhower issued the first Veterans Day proclamation, which stated, and I quote, "In order to ensure proper and widespread observance of this anniversary, all veterans organizations, and the entire citizenry will wish to join hands in a common purpose. Toward this end, I am designating the Administrator of Veterans Affairs as Chairman of the Veterans Day National Committee, which shall include such other persons as the Chairman may select, and which will coordinate at the national level necessary planning for the observance. I am also requesting that the heads of departments and agencies of the executive branch of the government to assist the National Committee in every way possible." End quote. The original concept of the celebration was a brief suspension of business beginning at 11 a.m. and a day observed with public meetings, such as we have here today, and parades. When I was a young boy, I would enjoy going to the Veterans Day Parade. I would see fire trucks, marching bands, various floats, and most importantly, the various groups of men and women that served in the military. There were some World War I, but mostly World War II, Korean and Vietnam veterans, American Legion, and veterans of foreign wars groups. As a young boy, I knew these men and women were I knew who these men and women were, and basically what they did to earn the right to wear their uniform and take their place in the parade that was to honor and commemorate them. I came from a military family that served in or during every conflict, war, and everything in between since the founding of America in 1776, and possibly even before that. Although I heard some stories about war and what it was like to be in the military, I, like all children, adult civilians, did not fully understand the emptiness, the sorrow, the toll that it had taken on these men and women, or what they carried deep within themselves and that they kept private. As years went on, less and less parades, till they were all but a memory or a scene in a movie or a documentary. Veterans Day had become just another day off of work or school. Let's not forget the sales at your favorite store or car dealership. Maybe there was a passing mention on TV or on the radio, but it was just to sell something. People would be oblivious to the flags on graves or hung on poles as they scurried about. VFW and American Legion buildings, once vibrant, socially recognized, and community active, had become just another building on the side of the road, and from what it looked like, run down, empty, and forgotten about. When I was in high school, back in 1991, a group of friends and I talked about joining the military. Some were in the Air Force ROTC program at Lowell High School. We're all about 17 years old, and like all of us veterans, young and dumb. The Cold War was still going on. The first Gulf War was in full swing. The Desert Storm started in January of '91. Most of us joined, but only I and one other joined while still in high school. I joined the Army, he, the Marine Corps. Most others joined after high school, either in the Air Force or in the Navy. It became personally obvious to me while I was serving in the military and after that things had radically changed concerning the military and veterans from when I was young. I heard and saw the way the men and women that served in the Vietnam War were treated when they came home. One of my uncles served in Vietnam. At that time, being in the military, a veteran, or having a family member that was something you just did not talk about. It had become a social stigma back then, but this was now 20 years later. I would get looks when I was in uniform, usually ones of confusion, suspicion, and contempt. One day, two young boys, about 10 years old, came over to me on Mount Vernon Street, here in Lowell, on my way to school when I was in full dress uniform, and they called me baby killer. When I and many others that I knew came home and started to acclimate to our new lives as civilians, we struggled. And many of us still do today. Many of us have been rejected by the VA, local veteran centers and offices, and so on, due to red tape and technicalities. Technicalities like being required to serve 180 days consecutive active duty, which is impossible for reservists and National Guard, unless activated and deployed. Or a good friend of mine that served in the Navy SEALs. During his last covert operation, he was severely wounded. He died and was revived 5 times. Eventually lived, but was denied any veterans benefits, status, or assistance because his injuries could not be attributed to military service due to no records of his actions at the time of his injuries, because the SEALs, like all special combat operators, do not exist. They do not have records of their actions. We also face difficulties with employment because employers do not want to hire us for various reasons connected to the stigma of military service. The shift in America from seeing servicemen and women and veterans as hometown heroes and respected members of the community, the Veterans Day parades, remembering the sacrifices of countless unseen, unknown, that defended your freedom, to an attitude of, thanks for the day off of work, thanks for the day off of school, and let's not forget the sales. The looking away from a veteran or serviceman as they did not exist, and forgetting the meaning of Veterans Day, it's okay. I say it's okay not because I agree with it, because I, every serviceman and woman, reservist, National Guard member, and veteran, defended the right to feel how you feel about us, whether it is to thank us for our service or to hate and shun us. We protected the right to think that way. Slowly things are changing back to the one of thanks, once again, by the average person on the street. It is regrettable that it took a 15-year-long war to do so. My brothers and sisters actively serving in the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, National Guard, Reserves, my brothers and sisters, veterans, that are not and did not do what others could not. We are doing and did what others did not. We did what was asked of us. Some of us were unchanged. Some of us changed forever. We all sacrificed a part of ourselves. Some sacrificed all and gave their lives. Let us not forget the families of those serving and that served, and the sacrifices of our loved ones we left behind, and our loved ones that are there now every day to witness, but never truly understand what we live with every day in silence. People have come up to me while I was in my Legion uniform, as I am today, and they have said that I look good. My ribbons and awards are impressive, that I must have been brave, or a number of other things. Just last month, a kid wearing a Lowell High baseball t-shirt saw me on the train with my children. I was wearing my Desert Storm veteran hat, as I always do, and he asked me if I was a veteran, and I said yes. He said I was a hero. I told him I didn't do anything special. He looked at me again and said I was a true hero, and then he walked away. I, like all vets, did what we had to do. The ribbons, the awards, just mean that we're lucky and we came home alive. Veterans Day can be found on any calendar. To the average person, it is 11 November. To me and my fellow veterans, Veterans Day is every day that we wake up. We go about our lives just as every one of you do. We're sons, daughters, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, husbands, wives, fathers, mothers, so on. We feel as you do, although I have been told by many people that we just don't express our feelings like others do. We cherish our loved ones, and if we seem a bit withdrawn when we're with them, it's because we cherish those moments, and we want to be lost in those moments. We know what we did. We sacrificed, we carry with us in silence to ensure their safety, freedom, and happiness, and we are proud to have done so. In closing, I put forth to those who have the power and the means to bring Veterans Day, 4th of July, Memorial Day back to the people. Bring the parades back, as it was declared to do so by President Eisenhower. Bring the community back together like it was before in a more innocent time. Heal the community and the people. Give the people something to be proud of, to enjoy, not because it can be done, but because it should be done. To everyone else, I ask to speak up. Let your voice be heard. We defended your right to do so. If you want parades and community events to commemorate and honor these things, to show your children and your grandchildren how community and America was in a more simpler time, then tell your elected officials that you want it and be proactive and involved in making that happen. To the veterans of the first Gulf War until now, I ask you to stand up, be active, join a local veterans organization. You are the future voice. Be the leaders of tomorrow, today. Last and certainly not least, when you see a service member, veteran, police officer, fireman, ambulance personnel, and paramedic, many of first responders are veterans too. Say thank you for their service and what they do every day for our community. To all service members, veterans, and their family members, I thank you for your service and your sacrifice. To all others, I thank you for being here and for your time. Please remember, freedom is not free. Service members and veterans paid for it. Thank you. This time, I'd like the Sergeant at Arms to bring Mr. Eric LaMarche to the podium for God Bless America.
Everybody stand.
If I may, really quick, just make a comment. To piggyback off my fellow veteran service officer, Lynette from Drake. Just over 10 years ago, I received the greatest opportunity, and I was offered a position working in the best job that any veteran could ever ask for. I am humbled every day, and I am honored every day to be serving the veterans of the state of Massachusetts, the greatest state in this country, providing the best benefits. We are alone in this whole nation with what we provide our veterans, to the extent that we provide them. And again, to reiterate what our mayor said, I think perhaps we should challenge our president to maybe extend these benefits throughout every state, throughout this country. And I also wanted to say that yesterday I had the honor, as I have been probably for 10 years since I've been a part of Veteran Services, I had the opportunity to attend a ceremony at the Butler Middle School. Miss Pat Jusom puts on an amazing remembrance ceremony. I believe, is that a 20-year, have you been doing this for 20 years? I think she deserves a round of applause for her services. Thank you very much. It means a lot to us, to every veteran. Thank you. And please join me singing God Bless America. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be doing a wreath placement ceremony, a firing, and taps outside. If you would like to go out there to witness that, thank you very much.
Stay right here, okay? Hold on. Do you want me to help you? Okay. Everyone make it easy for us. Okay, Alan? Irene, I'm sorry. You know, huh? Good. Okay.